Hello, everyone, and good day. Today's topic is on the power of discernment, connected with our ideas of happiness. There are many words that we use in our daily language, whether it is spoken or in our mind, that we not necessarily have thought about in any deep way. And one of those words is happiness. Many of us strive for a sense of fun or excitement or entertainment or happiness. And it is important for us to realize that it needs a certain discernment to really grasp the real treasures in life. And happiness is one of those treasures. Now, happiness, for example, can be confused with acquiring something new or receiving many things or having or owning or possessing many things. And of course there can be a certain excitement when something new comes into our life, or when we are receiving a certain gift. But after a while, that newness fades. And then that excitement or that joy that was there, it also fades because we become used to it. We might even forget about that gift even. And we are back to our normal self and normal life. And that same excitement we can feel when we are buying things and buying something. There might be that kind of excitement is the best word. But is that truly what happiness is? There can be a certain joy when, for example, we gain a certain position, or when we gain compliments from others for our achievements or for what we mean to them, or maybe for what we bring to the certain situation, or our skills, or maybe even our physical appearance. But even that, it may be fun, it may be exciting, it may be even some joy, but does it last? And is that the happiness we truly are looking for? Or of having certain luxury, or of acquiring some money? All of those are useful things, or some of them may be useful, and not to diminish the value or the fun that we can have. But is that what deeper inside one is looking for? And exploring the spiritual dimension of life, it becomes very easy to understand that we are overlooking certain aspects. We live in a world that is changing. We live in a world that is changing all the time. And we live in a world that is changing in an unpredictable way. So anything that we may acquire, anything that we may identify with, anything that we may get attached to, anything that we may think gives us happiness, it can change. It can change anytime. And it can be lost anytime. And so that solid type of happiness, which is more in the form of a contentment and a state of deeper joy that pervades our character, our mood, our temperament, that is something else. That has not really much to do with something that is temporary here or with me, or something that I can do but maybe more tomorrow I cannot do, or someone paying me a compliment and maybe tomorrow that person is not there. That is something deeper. And when we enter into a spiritual practice, there are two gifts that come to us. One is the gift of a subtle intellect. Subtle intellect means understanding of more subtle and more refined things. And we get the gift of a refined or subtle eyesight. So an eyesight which is not these two eyes, but sight through the mind. Now in English we say, when we understand something, we say, I see. Yes, I see, I understand. So certain things are seen from a more subtle perspective. And same with happiness. Can I understand happiness with a more refined intellect and a more refined sight? And so that deeper happiness, if we look at it with these two gifts, the gifts of that refined thinking capacity and that refined sight, that happiness is not at a physical, visible, tangible level. It is at an inner level. Can we be content with who we are internally? Can we even recognize the true self and appreciate and value the qualities of the inner being and live from that inside out? Happiness that comes from clarity of thinking. Happiness that comes from seeing the big picture. Happiness that comes from knowing the invisible behind the visible. Now, to give a simple example, what we see here on Facebook, what is visible through the video, is this physical image. But there is a being behind, the one who is making this mouth move, the one who is watching through these eyes. And there are certain ideas in the mind, and there are certain concepts and certain attitude and a certain awareness. Now, if there is external abundance and external luxury and maybe even physical health. But if the inner being and the mind is in turmoil, if there is some anxiety that makes us want to acquire, then that is not true happiness. The real wealth of happiness is when there is insight, clarity, and peace. And that attitude or a nature of someone who has that inner wealth, that inner joy, the nature is that they can be content with whatever the external situation. So let us explore a bit this inner being and this inner wealth. And maybe just a peaceful mind already is a form of happiness. So let us take a few moments. Let the body be comfortable. Take a few deep breaths. Inhale and exhale. Make sure that the hands are relaxed. Make sure that the feet are relaxed. And let us just reflect on these two spiritual gifts. Clarity of thinking and this eye of the mind with which we can perceive the invisible and the spiritual, with which we can see the secrets behind the visible. And let us actively use these gifts. So right here, right now, aware of the body, but also aware of the one who is operating the body, the inner being, the spiritual being, being of light, invisible to the physical eyes, but the one who is creating thoughts, the invisible experiencer, the soul. This is the real self. Timeless, being of light. free, secure, and the body is the vehicle temporarily. There was a time when this body was not there, but I, the inner being of consciousness, existed. This body is temporarily a gift to use. But when this body has come to its expiry date, the being of consciousness, the soul, the real self, will go on. Timeless traveler. And a deeper sense of joy is experienced, knowing immortal self, the soul. We are spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings. Temporarily experiencing the physical dimension. And just for a few moments, holding this awareness, and with the eye of the mind, we hold this image of a tiny star, pure, peaceful, living light. Meditation is about becoming more aware of this invisible and imperishable self. Meditation is about being aware of that imperishable dimension beyond. And with that sense of clarity, it becomes more easy to interact and to go about everyday scenes with a feeling of involvement, but at the same time free. Detached involvement, interacting, sharing, but not getting trapped, not getting into the illusion that happiness can come from things that are temporary. The natural state of the soul is of peace. The natural state of the inner being is of joy. As long as there is that awareness, once that awareness is lost and the illusion is created, that something out there has to fill us, then it is eternal anxiety and insecurity, restlessness, coming back to the completeness and the wholeness and the fullness of the self as a spiritual being of light. A guest, invisible traveler. Everything is an extra experience. Need nothing. The soul needs nothing to be. And as we continue the journey, continue to reflect on these more refined understandings and aiming to not only see the visible, but also to see the invisible behind. Thank you and have a good day.